Well, hello my felting friends, welcome to this week's video. This one is the October Enchanted Forest picture. So I hope you enjoy it. It does speed through quite quickly, but it would have, the minimum I could have got it down to editing was 2.5 hours. So I've sped it up a bit so you're not sitting there for the whole 2.5 hours. But I really enjoyed this one. I saved it, that's why there wasn't a poll. I really wanted to do this one. It's got a lot of violets and purples in as a colour theme in the background, but I think it works quite well. So I thought I'll talk you through this the best I can without gabbling. And what we're starting with is the tanzanite, which is a dark purple in the background, and then as you saw I've mixed some slightly lighter purple into that. So we're going to have, it's going to be the tanzanite is the darkest, and that will go around the edges, and then I'm going to have the slightly lighter one I've done there, which has got a bit more lighter purple in it, and then we're going to add a little bit more around because the moon is going to be just so you can just see the circle. So I'm working the lighter purple at the moment around that, and then I'm coming back, as you can see, into the darker tanzanite colour. And I'm not sure that I mentioned it, but the drawing is in the description box below. Sorry if I have. You can go download that for free, that's fine, if you'd like it. And now I'm mixing some lighter blue with some lighter purples. You don't need all these purples if you don't want to do it this way. You can actually mix them, it's just that I've already got them mixed, so that's why I'm using them. And you will see all the colours I've used in at the end of the video if it's any help to you. Obviously some I will have used quite a lot, and other bits I will have just taken little tiny bits out for something, but you will see that as you watch the video. I'm hoping that helps more, that you can actually see the colours at the end. I was going to give the names, but really it's irrelevant because you just need to match, if you want to do it my way, match the colours more than anything else. That's your drawing. I just want to see where I've got the moon, so I can put the lighter colour I've just mixed, so that I can set the moon in front of it. But I'm using this lighter colour, and then I'm making it even thinner as I lay it down, because the whole background is going to be soft and lilac-y. It looks lovely. I put it up on my wall, as I do, to keep checking it, and it reminded me of the Cheshire, you'll see what I mean in a minute, but it reminded me of the Cheshire Cat as he starts to appear in bits in the Alice in Wonderland scene. I don't know whether you know it, but where he starts, you can just see his mouth and then his face and things, and it sort of goes like that. So I'm using the template because I'm just going to do a circle for the moon in white. And as you know, if you've watched me before, I use a template and I still can't make a circle. So I'm just using this to felt it down really well. And then I'm going to take all the fluffy bits to the back, but I don't know whether I will be trimming this picture later, but at least it keeps it neat in the meantime. I do have a few different purples I'm using to get the kind of look I want to. So this colour here is the start of the land. And what I'm trying to do is roughly leave part of him, little elf, free, so that I can see roughly where to place him, and I will leave a bit of the pumpkin without anything on as well, so that I know roughly where the pumpkin goes. So the story for this then so far is that the fox gave us the key, and we followed the key to a tree with a door in, and feeling particularly brave, we've used the key in the door, and it's opened up into this nighttime look, and we've bravely, because the bats were flying out through the door and all sorts of things, and we have bravely stepped through the door, and on the other side to greet us is this elf. And this elf is going to keep us safe, not that we're in any danger anyway, but just in case we're nervous to walk through this Halloween midnight forest, he's come along to help us through the forest so that we can find our way through to the next part of our journey. So this is our little escort for our walk through the winter Halloween forest. I am in the process of writing a short story to go with this, and I'm hoping to get it finished. I've just got to obviously finish the pictures, but it's going to be like an illustrated PDF with my 12 months worth of pictures in, and a story. And I'm going to sell it for £5 because obviously it's taken me a while to make, and that's to help raise money for my electric desk that I'm waiting to get so I can stand up. So any proceeds from that will be going to my desk fund, but that will be up. It might even be up at the end of October, I don't know yet. So if anybody fancies this, it's going to be a nice story too. It's not a short PDF, so and as I say, it'll have all these pictures in and some extra drawing illustrations and things to make it like what I was going for was like an old-fashioned storybook where they had nice little illustrations in that, you know, a bit like Beatrix Pottery kind of thing, where you have little extra illustrations and things. So I'm creating that at the moment. So as you see, we've done all the base purpley bits at the moment, and I wanted to go in and just introduce a little bit of blue because otherwise I thought the purple might be getting a bit much. So I've just gone over it, and this is a sapphire blue, it's called. So I'm just taking a little bit of that over and around where he's going to stand, so you won't have loads of it. But this picture, this one, is all about layering. There's a lot. This is why it took me a while. It took me a couple of days to make this one because there was lots and lots of little bits of layering going on. And this is just some blue and white and that, because I want to keep the whole distant thing like a misty kind of forest look. I wanted it quite atmospheric, I think is the word I'm going for. So the tanzanite black's going into making these distant trees that we have here. They're all just going to be really warped and out of shape and things. And we're going to have a few, obviously smaller from the distance, and then as they come closer they'll get slightly darker in colour. I added some of the tanzanite to the black, which I would normally use as a silhouette, because I wanted to keep the slightly dark purpley theme going. But obviously these needed to be a lot darker than just the tanzanite. Now I'm just using some of the white that I use for the moon, and I'm outlining a few of the branches to make it look like the moonlight's catching the trees. I'm not going to do every single branch, I just want to emphasise the ones nearest us. Well, I'm very happy as well because I've had my first Starbucks pumpkin spice coffee, which is always a good start for Halloween. And while I was making this, I'm surrounded by my Halloween gonks. So they've all come out and they're all sitting around, and a bit of Halloween tinsel as well. I do enjoy Halloween. I like the colours. My whole house at one point was done in the Gothic style. So I might be mature, but I'm a secret goth, I think. But having said that, it did look very cosy. I've got dark red walls and things in my lounge, and it sounds hideous, but it's actually really cosy in the winter. And so you can see how I've just done a few of the branches on the trees and things there. And now I'm back to using a little bit of the white with the blue. I'm just still trying to keep the hazy part going. And this is all black. I haven't put any tanzanite in this tree at this time. So this is just going to be a black silhouette of a tree. And I wanted to try to make sure that the branches didn't actually go over the moon, but they do get quite close to it at times. So I've cut him out because I want to make sure I get his face in the right place and the right size. And this is just, as you can see, a sandy colour. So do you celebrate Halloween? What do you do? We don't do a lot here other than I just decorate my house a little bit. We live basically in the middle of nowhere, so we don't have any trick-or-treaters and things come round. Do you do fancy dress? Are you going anywhere? I think I kind of miss the way the America does the Halloween things. I think I would have enjoyed that. So I've marked out, I keep all these little bits I've cut out because they come in handy. So I've basically marked out his ears, obviously in his head, and these bits, I wanted to get his face in first and then I could get a feel for the rest of it. So I've used all the sandy colour, and then I'm just going to do some slightly darker brown because I need to do a little bit of shading for his ears and things like that. And his ears also do have a little bit of orangey red go into them in a minute. But this is the bit where I feel like he starts to look like the Cheshire Cat, where it's coming out bit by bit. But the story I'm making, it's quite fun if I don't say so myself. It's all about a little elf called Corwin, and he's asked to go on a journey, which he's not terribly keen on doing, and so that's the basis of the story, kind of thing. And he has to go on this journey, and he's sort of a cross between. I love Winnie the Pooh, so he's kind of a cross between a Winnie the Pooh character, sort of Alice in Wonderland, and who was the other one I wanted to do it for? It was Winnie the Pooh, Alice in Wonderland, and Bilbo Baggins, is it, from The Hobbit? Kind of, I took a bit of inspiration from all of those, so it's not a copy of their story, obviously, but it's a bit like that. It's written a bit like that. Right, so I'm making sure I get the ears right, and this is where I've got the red and the orange in the ears. And I'm going to put a little bit of moonlight highlight over the top of his ears as well. And this is just, so I want this side of his face because I need to get some shape into his face rather than have it just flat. So this is why I've made this side a bit darker. So I've got some darker browns, and then I go in, I've got a couple of shades of this kind of sandy colour, so it goes right up from that sand colour into cream, which is what I'm putting here. So I'm using some of the creamier colour to lighten areas and the brown to darken down a bit. So this is nice. This is just fox brown, if you think fox colour, and then I have a little bit of orange that I put in as well in a minute to give the highlight. I just used my template because I was trying really hard to get circles. And then can you see that's just like a touch of burnt orange? And then obviously I'll do his pupils in black. And then what I'll do is I'll put a little bit of white highlight in each eye, and I do go back around the eye in black just to circle the whole eye. It's amazing what difference that little blob of white does to the eye. Really brings it to life. And he's got to have eyebrows because they make the expression on his face work. So be careful how you put his eyebrows, because you can make him look happy or sad or confused. So have a moment's thought, how are they going to go on there? And this is a little bit more white. I wanted it a little bit brighter around here. But it's not the white, sorry. It's a creamy colour, lighter creamy colour. And then, as he's a happy little elf, we've got to give him a smile. And I made sure that sort of started halfway between his eye and then ended halfway between his other eye, if you see what I mean. So now here I want to put his hat on him. So I was just making sure that everything was in the right place before I started that. And all I do is, I knew I wanted to do his hat in sort of like greens and oranges. So I'm outlining it in the colour I'm going to use to make his hat itself at the end. So I'm not, so where I'm going to do green, I've mainly got a green line. Where I'm going to put the oranges, I put the orange line in more, so that I'm not trying to cover up too many lines, if you know what I mean. I don't want to be covering up green lines where I want the red. And these are just dark rusty oranges and things. And I'm starting off with a fairly dark green, and then I can add bits of highlight into it. And we're going to build up a stripy hat and then a patchwork body. And this is just a bit of black to give some shadow for the rim of his hat. And now I've got the darker base rust colour on the rest of the hat. I can go in and add little bits of stripy, slightly orangier colour. These will be the same colours I'm actually going to use on the pumpkin as well, so all the colours will tie together. But you obviously can dress your little elf in anything you like, really. You could use just the face and then put any body shape or anything else on it after that if you want to. You don't have to actually copy everything I've done on here. If you fancy a different, you could put him in a little dress, but well, then it would be a her, obviously. So I'm just adding some highlights and things onto the hat. And I do use this, I actually mixed a very light lavender with white. So it basically looks white with a hint of lavender colour. And that's what I'm using for a lot of the other highlights. I'm taking the black under his chin because he's going to have a collar on it, like a knitted collar, knitted jumper, and it has a roll collar, so that's the shadow that this collar is going to make. So all I've done exactly the same thing here as I did with this hat. I just blocked in his body, and then I'm just going to go back now and fill in where the sleeves and things like that are. So to start with, I want him to have a little coat, which is why I put the darker brown background, just so I've got something to build his coat onto. And in my case, I wanted it a bit, sort of a bit patchwork and that. So if you like Halloween pictures, I do have an exclusive one on the Patreon site as well, if you fancy another one. But that won't be coming onto the main channel, that's just exclusively for patrons. So I've built up his little patchwork outfit, and I wanted to do a little bit of stitching so it looks like it's held together with long stitches, and that's what they are. And I've got to have something to tie his coat together, so this is what this bit is as well. So this is the collar of his jumper. Well, that's what I was seeing it as, a little rolled over polo neck top. So that's just the shadow that his sleeve, you'd see up his sleeve. So I'm still working really with layers and things, just making sure that I've got some darker bits and some lighter bits there. And I didn't think it was light enough around that bit, so I've added some extra light bits, and now I'm coming down his outside of his coat with a bit of that pale lilac I was saying to you, where I'd mix the lilac and the white. So I added a bit of extra blue, the blue-white behind him as well. So I put his trousers, started to put his trousers on, and then I decided that they were a little short, so I went and added a little bit of extra length. I think I must have made his coat longer than I meant to. Not that it matters at all. So I just added a little bit more length on his trouser legs. I have to say, even looking at this, I do think he's very cute. So we're popping in the shadows and the highlights on his trousers now. Yeah, I can only assume he'd grown a bit since I first drew him. Needed to let his trousers down a bit. So I did the same thing with the pumpkin. I cut the pumpkin out, I popped it on the paper, and I just drew around it in a dark colour, dark orange. I mean, you don't have to do that, you could just put yourself a pumpkin in, it doesn't matter, but I wanted to try and keep roughly to my drawing, so that's why I cut it out and popped it down there. There is another video coming up. I think it's the Halloween night, 31st of which is a Friday, and that has another pumpkin in. So if you want to see more about doing pumpkins, that will have quite a good pumpkin in as well. So you can use black or dark brown to do the stripes. And then this is the same orange that I used on his hat, just to start to add some highlights. That way I figured it keeps everything tied together. And then this is the white with lilac again that I'm just going around the edge of the pumpkin with. And this is the fun part as well, because you can have any face you like, really. I think in the picture I drew round eyes, but for some reason I did triangle eyes. Now what I do here is I start off with a nice bright yellow, and then I do add a little bit of white inside it, not all over it, just small patches of white inside each area, so it looks like it's a bit brighter. I was thinking I might go back and give him some teeth, just to give the mouth a little bit more something. So what I'm doing here now is I've got that nice, as kind of a brighter burnt orange, and I'm just lining the inside of the mouth because that's where the light would be reflecting off it. So I wanted a little bit brighter there. So I do that around his mouth, and then I've done it sort of down the sides of his eyes and his nose, if you have a watch. I wanted something to, because obviously he would have some thickness to that shell that's been cut. So I needed to add that look to it, which is why I've added that lighter colour. But I don't go all the way round. If you look, I've gone down the side, one side, and I go along the bottom of it. Because if you go all the way around the whole thing, then you lose the fact that it's on an angle. Because you wouldn't see all the sides. But it needs to be quite bright. There we go. I think it makes a difference because it gives you a bit of depth to the skin then. And I have gone around most of that with, it's not actually black, I've gone around with the dark brown. And because it's so bright, we're going to have some reflection of that light onto this ground here. So I've just done it really thinly so you can still see all the purple and that underneath it. And we're going to add a bit of shadow as well, actually under the pumpkin. I did do this with black, this bit of shadow, because it wanted it really, really dark. But as you can see there, I've mixed some black and some of the purple that's on the ground there. And I'm now putting that over as well. So that's black and the tanzanite really. Because I want it, as it comes away from the underneath the pumpkin, I want it just to soften a little bit. So I'm putting a bit of that colour back over it, just to break it up a little bit. And because the light's coming from the pumpkin, we need to lighten up little bits of the side of the elf this way. So on his hand I've got a little bit of the reddy pumpkin colour, and I'm going to put a little bit of that up in his ear, as you'll see in a minute, and a little bit reflecting off his face as well. I'm just trying to make sure I keep the shape of his hands here. So this is obviously the stalk of the pumpkin. So I start off really dark, it's black and green mixed together. The dark green I had, and I've mixed some black with it. So I'm going to put in the shape with that, and then I will go back and lighten it up a bit. If you're enjoying this, please don't forget to give me a like. I would appreciate it very much. Thank you. Right, so did you see I've added some light green as well to that? So I'm just going to start to make the stalk look a little bit round. So I've got some very shadowy bits and a nice light bit there. So here, if you look at his ear, I've added a little bit of that red colour. And I've added a little bit of the reflection of the pumpkin onto his cheek as well. So we've got a little bit of red coming on there as well. And now I'm going round the pumpkin in the same way I did with the rest of it, with that lilac-y white colour. So if you just looked at it on the table, you'd think it was white, but it does have a hint of lilac in it. I still wanted to lighten that a bit more. It still felt a little bit too much all purple. So this is that same lilac-y white mixture I've made to do the highlights. I've just added just a little bit around the edges there, just behind him a bit. And we can't forget his shadow, because he's got to be standing on something. If I didn't put a shadow in, he'd just look like he was floating, so that's why the shadow is so important. And again, this is just the tanzanite that we used at the top, mixed with a touch of black, and then as you can see I just spread it out a bit. So now at this point you can put in what you like. I wanted just a bit of something in the front, so I'm adding some sort of just purples and blues as flowers and things. It's kind of rough really. I just wanted them sort of wispy and all that sort of thing. So that's what I'm doing over here. I'm building up different colours, but I wanted to keep the nice lilac-y purples and blues theme, so that's why I've done that in the flowers themselves. And I'm doing this bit the same as I do my grass on the green. You know, when I do the green grass, I'm just using these different colours. And what I'm going to do, I think, as well, is I'm going to cut off probably the bottom inch of this picture, because I think I'd like to have his feet nearer the bottom of the picture. So when I get round to putting it in a frame or whatever I'm going to do with it, that's what I shall do. I shall cut off maybe the bottom inch. But you can have different coloured flowers here, it doesn't have to be those. I hope you enjoy the ending picture there. And that's all the colours, so you don't have to have all of those. You can probably mix some of those, you don't need to have them all. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and if you did, please don't forget to give me a like and subscribe, and I will see you on my next video. Thank you very much for watching. Have a happy Halloween. Bye for now.